ಪುನಃ ಬಂತದು ವೈಟ್ ಕಿಂಗ್ ಫಿಶರ್ ನನ್ನ ಈ ಸೈಡಲ್ಲಿ ಹಾರ್ತಾ ಇದೆ.
ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಬರುತ್ತೆ, ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಇದೆಯಲ್ಲ. ಏನೋ ಫಿಶ್ ತಂದಿದೆ, ಬಾಯಿಲ್ ಫಿಶ್ ಇದೆ. ಇದೆಯಾ?
ಇಲ್ಲ, ಉಂಟು ಉಂಟು
ಇದೆ. ಎರಡು ಒಳಗಡೆಯಿಂದ ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಒಳಗಿಂದ ಮರಿ ಬಂತು.
ಹೌದು,
ಫೀಡ್ ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ ನೋಡಿ. ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಒಳಗಡೆಯಿಂದ ಮರಿ ಬಂತು. ಫೀಡ್ ಮಾಡ್ತು. ಇಲ್ಲ ಇನ್ನೂ ಮಾಡಿಲ್ಲ.
ಉಂಟದ್ರ ಬಾಯಲ್ಲಿ
ಬಾಯಲ್ಲಿದೆ. ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ಮರಿ ಇರ್ಬೋದು ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟಲ್ಲಿ. ಒಂದೇ ಬಂದಿದ್ದು. ಬಾಯಲ್ಲೇ ಇದೆ ಫಿಶ್.
ಬಾಯಲ್ಲಿ ಫಿಶ್ ಇದೆ, ಅದ್ರ ಬಾಯಿ ಅಷ್ಟೇನಾ? ಇಲ್ಲ ಇಲ್ಲ
ಫಿಶ್ ಇದೆ.
ಫಿಶ್ ಸರಿ ಕಾಣುತ್ತೆ.
ತಿನ್ಕೋತಾಗಿತ್ತು, ಅದು ಬರ್ಲಿಲ್ವಲ್ಲ,
ಅದೇ ತಿಂದ್ಬಿಡ್ತು.
ಅದು ಇಸ್ಕೊಂಡಿಲ್ವಲ್ಲ, ಯಾಕೋ ಕೋಪ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡು ಹೊರಟೋಯ್ತು ಮರಿ, ದಪ್ಪ ಅಂತದೆ. ಅದೇ ತಿಂತು. ಎದ್ಕೊಂಡು ಹೋಯ್ತು ಅನ್ಸುತ್ತೆ ಮರಿ. ನಮ್ಮನ್ನು ನೋಡಿ
ಪಿಂಕ್ ಮೇಲೆ ಕೂತ್ಕೊಂಡು ಕಾಣೋದು ಇಲ್ಲ ಸರಿ.
ಶಿಫ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಿ 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 ಫುಲ್ ವೈಟ್ ಆಗಿದೆ ಅಲ್ಲಿ. ಅದು ಅದೇ ಕನ್ನಡ.
Okay, let's get started. In the last episode, we have seen all about Rashis and Sauravarsha. In this episode, I will cover a variation of Rashis, a small variation, a minor variation, but which causes major confusion in people's minds. Now, you know this starting point of this animation. This is April 14th, 0213 hours. And that is Mesha Sankranti. The sun is positioned on Meshadi. And this is the beginning of Mesha Masa. And this Masa is called Mesha Masa because in this segment of the ecliptic, you have the Mesha Rashi. And that's why the Masa is named Mesha Masa. I explained this as the calendaric definition of Rashi. But the variation that I am going to talk about, the minor variation, is as follows. Some of the communities, Hindu communities, do not call this Mesha Masa. For example, the Bengalis call this Boishakha Masa. And the Tamil community calls this Chittirai Masam. Why do they do that? Where are these names coming from? This is the variation. Nothing but a variation in the naming of the Masa. So why do they call Boishakha and Chittirai Masam? The answer to that is here. The Bengalis have taken this nakshatra, Vishaka nakshatra, and used that to name the saura masa, and they call it Boishakha Masa. Same way, the Tamil community has taken Chitra nakshatra and used that to name the Masa and call it Chittirai Masam. So they have ignored this Mesha Rashi which is sitting here on the ecliptic segment. Instead, they have gone almost opposite in the ecliptic and picked the names of two nakshatras. That's what they have done. Now, why do they do that? What is the purpose? The reason they do that is that they are anticipating the position of purnima, the next upcoming purnima. What does that mean? That means here is Chandra. Now I'm going to roll the animation. So the moon is moving and it's coming all the way here and it has become purnima, full moon. And you see that purnima has occurred in the vicinity of Chitra and Vishaka nakshatras. And hence the Tamil people have taken Chittirai as the name and the Bengalis chose Boishaka as the name. Now this technique, this convention is familiar to you. We have discussed this in chandramana also, because this is exactly how masas are named. Masas are also named based on the nakshatra in whose vicinity purnima happens. Of course, masa begins with Amavasya or Purnima itself, whereas here this is Sauramasa and it begins with a Sankranti. But the Bengali and Tamil communities continue to use that technique of anticipating where the Purnima is going to happen and use that nakshatra name. And both of these are meaningful. You can see that moon is in between the two, so you can choose either of them. Now let me move forward. Now the sun has come to the next Sankranti, Vrishabha Sankranti. So the Sanskrit name is Vrishabha Masa, but the Bengalis call it Jyeshta Masa and the Tamils call it Vaigasi Masam. Why? Because Bengalis are naming it after Jyeshta Nakshatra and the Tamils are naming it after Vishaka Nakshatra and they call it Vaigasi. Now you should be able to anticipate by now that if this is the Sankranti, then and the moon and the sun is going to move from here to here and here is the Vrishabha Rashi, then it is necessary that Purnima will happen in this segment. Right? Because by definition, Purnima happens when the moon is 180 degrees from the sun. So if the sun is going to move in this segment, then Purnima has to happen in this segment. And that is why the Bengali and Tamil communities have picked these nakshatras. This one is just outside the segment, but at least it's close to the beginning of the segment, Vishaka. And Jyeshta is right in the middle of this segment. And the Bengalis chose Jyeshta. And the Tamils chose Vishaka. And that's indeed what happens if you now transfer your attention to the moon. There it comes. And here is Purnima in this segment. And this goes on and on and on. Transfer your attention back to the sun. It's coming to the next Sankranti. There, it's reached Mithuna Sankranti and it will traverse through Mithuna Rashi. But Purnima is going to happen in this segment. Now, here is something interesting. So now, if you look at the masa definitions, the Bengalis called it Ashada Masa based on Purvashada, which is there in that segment. Or Uttarashada would be somewhere here, so both would work. But the Tamils chose Anuradha. I have no explanation for this because Purnima cannot happen in this segment at all. It's absolutely impossible because the sun moves from here to here. So Purnima has to happen in this segment. For some reason, the Tamils have chosen Anuradha. In fact, I can attempt a guess, which is that this is a similar thing which I have mentioned in one of the tutorials also, that a long time back in the past, the 0 degree point would have been at Meshadi. I have pointed that out. If at the same time, if the 0 degree point was at Meshadi, then Anuradha would be here. So maybe this has to do with the antiquity of this Tamil tradition. But I cannot confirm that at this point in time. I can only point out it is what it is, that this is where Purnima happens, and for some reasons the Tamils have picked Anuradha and shortened it to Ani. And the Bengalis have picked Ashada as the name of the masa. And both of them continue to ignore the actual Rashi which is present in this segment which the sun is traversing. Continuing further, there is the new moon, there is Purnima, right? Very, very close to Purvashada. Now transfer your attention back to the sun. It's traversing through Mithuna Sankranti. And it's come to the next Sankranti, which is Karkata Sankranti. So sun will traverse through here, which means you are going to have Purnima in this segment. The Bengalis have chosen Shravana. But once again, the Tamils have picked Uttarashada. So Ashada became Adi in Tamil, whereas Shravana continues to be Shrabon, the way the Bengalis pronounce it. And indeed, you will find that Purnima happens somewhere here. There you go. That is the Purnima point. Come back to the sun traversing Karkata Sankranti, approaching the next Sankranti, and there it is in Simha Sankranti. So this is where Purnima is going to happen. So the Bengalis chose Purva Bhadrapada, whereas the Tamils continue to pick a nakshatra which is kind of behind in a sense, Shravana. And Shravana was shortened, the Shra was dropped, and Avana was made Avani in Tamil. And then let's see, yes, indeed, this is where, in this segment is where the Purnima happens. Continuing further, sun is traversing Simha Sankranti, and it has reached the next Kanya Sankranti. And this is Kanya Rashi, it's going to traverse. So Purnima has to happen in this segment, and now it looks like both the Tamil and Bengali conventions have come back on track. So Tamils have picked Purva Bhadrapada, and they call it Purattadi. I'm not exactly sure how that transformation happened. And the Bengalis have taken Ashwini Nakshatra and they used that as Ashin Masa in Bengali. And indeed, this is the segment where Purnima will happen. There comes the moon, and it happened right at the beginning of that segment. So you may feel that the Bengalis have picked Ashin Masa, but Ashwini is so far away. But I have to once again highlight, Purnima will happen in this segment. This year it happens here. 12 months later it may happen here, it may happen here. Anywhere in this segment Purnima can happen because the sun will be traversing through this segment. It doesn't mean that every year Purnima will happen exactly here. No, that is not how it works. This has to do with the lunar orbit being 12 point something times the solar orbit. Continuing further, the next Rashi, Kanya Rashi, is being traversed. Next Sankranti is happening here, and Tula Sankranti has happened. So this time, this is where Purnima is going to happen, in this segment. And once again, the Tamil and Bengali have chosen the correct nakshatras. Ashwini has been chosen by the Tamils. They call it Aipasi Masam. Ashwini became Aipasi. And the Bengalis have chosen Kritika, and it becomes Kartik Masa. And they are pretty much in the segment. Kartik is a little bit outside the segment, but not too far off. But if you again look at exactly where the new moon happens, where Purnima, the full moon happens, Purnima, that happens this time, this year, right here. So it looks like it's far away from Kritika, but it would be much closer next year. Continuing further, traversing through Tula Rashi to the next Sankranti, Vrishchika Sankranti. And now Purnima has to happen here. So Kritika and Mrigashiras have been chosen. The Bengalis have chosen Mrigashiras. Another name for Mrigashiras is Agrahayana. And the Bengalis pronounce it as Ograhayun. Pardon my Bengali pronunciation, where the Tamils have taken Kritika and call it Kartigai Masam. And indeed, this is the segment where you will have Purnima there. Continuing further, we are traversing Vrishchika Rashi now. And Dhanu Sankranti has happened. So this is where the next Purnima is going to take place. Between Mrigashiras and Pushya has been chosen by the Bengalis. Yeah, Pushya appears to be significantly away from this segment. There is no way the Purnima is going to happen this far away. But that is what has been chosen. And here this is the actual Purnima. So the Tamils have taken Mrigashiras, call it Margadi Masam, whereas the Bengalis have taken Pushya and call it Pausha Masa. Then the next one, we are traversing Dhanu now. And the next Sankranti has happened, Makara Sankranti. And this is where Purnima is going to take place in this segment. And the Bengalis have chosen Magha Masa. Again, this seems kind of too far outside that segment where Purnima is really going to happen, whereas the Tamils got it wrong, got it right this time. Pushya has another name, which is Thaisya, and that has been modified to Thai Masam in Tamil. And where exactly does Purnima happen? Again, it happens here, right inside that segment, just inside that segment. Going on, traversing Makara Sankranti. So you notice that I am moving between the sun and the moon, sun and the moon, sun and the moon. So now Makara Sankranti is, Makara Rashi has been traversed, Kumbha Sankranti has happened. So this is where Purnima will happen. And this time both communities seem to have got it right. Bengalis have taken Falguni, Purva Falguni, and call it Falgun Masa, and the Tamils have taken Magha and modified it into Masi Masam. And indeed, this is the segment, both are inside that segment, and this is where Purnima happens. Very close to Magha this time. And we are coming towards the end, come back to the sun now, traversing through Kumbha Rashi. And there is the next Sankranti, Meena Sankranti. So Purnima is going to take place in this part of the ecliptic. So the Bengalis have picked up Chaitro, which is named after Chitra, which is at this end of the segment. And the Tamils have picked up Falguni and call it Panguni Masam, which is at the start of this segment. And that's where Purnima happens. Now we will close the cycle by traversing through Meena Rashi, come back to Mesha 1 year later. So the next Mesha Sankranti, April 14th on 2022. And we are back. So this is the segment where Purnima has to happen. And that's why the Bengalis chose Vishaka and called it Boishaka Masa, and the Tamils chose Chitra and called it Chittirai Masam. So we are now pretty much back where we started, but 1 year later, Purnima happened here just inside that segment. But this also illustrates what I have been telling you all along. Purnima will happen somewhere in this segment. Year after year, the position will change. When we started this animation, Purnima was here. Now 1 year later, Purnima has happened here, but it's still inside that segment because the sun moves through the same Mesha Rashi. So 180 degrees opposite of that, Purnima has to keep happening inside this segment. So this is the full cycle, which you have seen now as to why these communities use different names. The names sound like they are names of chandra masas. And many people actually get confused and think Bengalis and Tamils are using the chandramana calendar. No. They are very much using the sauramana calendar. Their masas begin on Sankrantis, not on Amavasya or Purnima. But it's just that the names of the masas sound like Chandramasa names because just like Chandramasa names, the same technique is used of looking at purnima and the nakshatra in which vicinity purnima is happening. Now, another interesting thing is that so the first month of the year for the Bengalis is actually Boishakh, not Chaitro. Chaitro is the last month of the year. Just that because they picked this and not this as the nakshatra to identify where Purnima happens. In fact, Bengalis also use, Punjabis also use this same technique. So you will hear of the Punjabi New Year as Baishakhi. And the people of Orissa also use this similar technique when it comes to naming their months. But whether they call it Baishakhi or Mesha Sankranti, it is always still April 14th. It is no different because it is all the sauramana calendar. So that brings me to the end of this episode. So we already started getting into alternating our attention between the sun and the moon. Sankranti, Purnima, Sankranti, Purnima, Sankranti, Purnima. And in the next episode, I will get deeper into this alternating aspect. But I will not use Purnima, I will use Amavasya. Because I will really get into superimposing the sauramana and the chandramana calendars. I am still leading up to the topic of Adhika Masa, but that is for the next episode. So I will end this episode here of the animation. Thank you very much for watching. So that was your first look at superimposing chandramana and sauramana. The same theme I will continue going forward into the future episodes. This time itself you saw Sankramana and Purnima alternating. In the next episode I will talk more about Sankramana and Amavasya alternating because that plays a very important role in determining Adhika Masa. Then we will see how the moon falls back year after year after year and suddenly it jumps forward at some point in time. And why does it jump forward? Because an Adhika Masa is added. So these are the topics we will get into in the subsequent episodes. So thank you very much for watching this series. Thank you very much for watching this particular episode. I hope even if it was a little bit complex, I hope that you enjoyed it, that it was instructive. And I hope you will forward this video to other people in your network so that more people understand about our Hindu calendar. So once again, thank you very much for watching, and until next time, take care and bye-bye.